the C House in downtown Chicago, where Lucas Henning is our wine director. We're also here with Fred Scherrer, and he's going to be talking about some of his wines and some questions that are often asked from some of my students. So in terms of tasting wine, how does acidity affect the perception of tannins?
This is one of my favorite subjects.
Oh, wonderful.
I went to UC Davis and got all the doctor science stuff, and we broke down all the minutiae and stuff. And then it was a few years later I started drinking wine with sommeliers and people who were just enjoying the stuff. And then I got the idea, it's more of a shape thing. You've got angles in wines and round things in wine. Angles are tannins and acidity. The round things are fruit and to some degree the alcohol. So you've got the rounds and the angles, and you come to balance between your angles and rounds different ways. If you've got a variety like Cabernet that has a lot of tannin, you don't need a lot of acidity to balance that. If you have both of those in high amounts, then you have something that's really screechy, and you're probably going to need sugar to balance that, which generally is not a recipe for long-term aging with Cabernet wines. So therefore, with a Cabernet wine, you have balance with a lot of tannin and very low acidity, or relatively low acidity. With Pinot Noir, on the other hand, it has much lower tannin, so therefore you want a little more acidity for the wine to be in balance.
Have more angles, because you've already got lower, like you said, angles with the tannins, but then you can balance it out with higher angles with the acidity.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you look at it that way, it becomes much easier to see how these things work out. White wines in general don't have very much tannin, so you tend to want a little more acidity in your white wines to achieve that balance.
Right. No, I like the way you explain it with the angles and round. You want to take us through this wine and tell us about maybe the angles and the round on this one? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. This is the 2005 Russian River Valley Pinot Noir. I've tasted this wine before, and just the smell of it gets me to salivate because I know what's going to happen when I stick it in my mouth. But with a Pinot Noir wine, it has these sort of aromas that are the more of the red fruits and things like that, as opposed to the darker fruits, which tend to indicate higher ripeness levels, which also infer lower acidity. I start to salivate anticipating a wine that has some lift to it, a little brightness to it.
Kind of like Pavlov.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know what's coming and your mouth gets ready.
So it rolls in the mouth. It's relatively wide when it comes in, and then I'm salivating like crazy here, and I'm looking for some food,
right?
Which is a very good thing. But I like to see the wine. It'll roll around in your mouth, and then it'll just start to lift around the edges and at the end. So it has a somewhat upward trajectory too, as opposed to it just comes in and then it just kind of starts to evaporate.
Right. No, and I like I said, I loved how you described the rounds and the angles, and this has a good amount of fruit, which is that round part, but then it's got nice acidity, and I think sometimes say a Burgundy Pinot Noir doesn't have as much of the round element with the fruit, and you have a lot of that acidity and maybe some more earth, and so it's almost a bit aggressive sometimes, and you definitely need food. Whereas this one would go well with food, I think, but also it's wonderful on its own. It's beautiful on its own. Yeah, I think it's a great thing.
Well, you can have it all sometimes.
I might.